Hello, everybody. Hello, coders. Let me know if you can hear me in the chat, and we will go ahead and get started. Let me know if you can see my screen. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. I hope everyone had a great weekend. So glad to see everyone here. Hello and welcome. As always, we are in another week of our ICD 10CM Guideline Mastery session. I am Miss Haley. I'm going to be your lead instructor for this class, and I am so excited to welcome new and returning coders to our Monday night class. I am accompanied by my wonderful Monday night team, Miss Olga and Miss Vina. So always a big shout out to them. Already posting our new survey link in the chat, and they're going to be here to encourage you guys like they always do and answer any questions you may have. So definitely happy to have them with us. We are going to be beginning our week 5. Time is just flying by. So we're going to be going over and reviewing some circulatory guidelines. So some circulatory topics are going to include things like hypertension, atherosclerotic coronary artery disease, angina, infarctions, TIA, and stroke. So those are a few we're going to cover today. And I'm going to be using our ICD-10-CM guideline book and also our MCG manual. So always make sure to have those handy if you can. And we will be keeping the same flow as we usually do in these classes. So we're going to do our Jeopardy game, followed by some in-depth scenarios. And as always, definitely don't forget to leave without filling out our survey. Like I said, Miss Olga was already wonderful and put that in the chat already. And let us know how we're doing in this class, or if you have any questions about any of the material that we go over during the class. So I am going to start by reading this copyright super quick, and then we will get into it. So ICD-10-CM Copyright 2026, American Medical Association, all rights reserved. Fee schedules, relative value units, conversion factors, and/or related components are not assigned by the AMA, are not part of CPT or ICD-10, and the AMA is not recommending their use. The AMA does not directly or indirectly practice medicine or dispense medical services. The AMA assumes no liability for data contained or not contained. ICD-10-CM is a registered trademark of AAPC. AAPC content found within this presentation is copyright of AAPC. Keyword concept FTR, CHUN, AMCI Fab 7, AMCI ICD-10, FlipTap, and MCG are trademarks of AMCI. The credentials CPC, CRC, COC, CPMA, CPB, CPPM, CBCO are owned by the AAPC. AMCI does not own the rights to these credentials. The credentials CCA, CCS, CCS-P, RHIA, RHIT are owned by AHEMA. AMCI does not own the rights to these credentials. All right. So with all of that being said, let's just jump right into it with our Jeopardy game. So I'm going to grab that. And if you are new, while I'm grabbing it, I will just quickly explain. So these are all going to be true or false questions that I've taken directly from our ICD-10-CM manual as well as our MCG manual. And so these are all, like I said, just going to be true or false scenarios, and then you are just going to put the answers in the chat, so nothing super crazy. And then I'm going to, at the end, go over and reveal all of the guidelines that I specifically took all of these questions out of, so we can use this as a tool in the future to study if we need to. Okay. Once it loads. Okay, and then we are going to have 3 different. All right, it's taking its sweet time. All right. Hello. Okay. can just gonna click this. So, okay, perfect. So, going to be hypertension. Our next category is going to be the atherosclerotic coronary artery disease, so ACD, and acute myocardial infarction. And without further ado, we can just start. We can just dip our toes in. Let's do a hypertension question for 100. As always, you're going to put the answers in the chat. I'll give you guys about 30 seconds for each question. So our first question for tonight, true or false, an assumed relationship exists between hypertension and heart disease. Is this true or false? I'll give you guys about 30 seconds and then we will go over the answer. All right, everyone's starting strong with the first question. So this one is going to be true. Normally you never want to assume anything when you are coding, but an assumed relationship does exist between hypertension and heart disease unless you see where they specifically say that they are unrelated. So that was a great start. Great job indeed. Let's move on to our ACD artery disease. Let's do a 300. Okay. Codes from category I-69 that specify hemiplegia, hemiparesis, or monoplegia do not always need to identify whether the affected side is dominant or non-dominant. I know this is a lot, so I'll give you guys a little bit of time. Let me know what you think. All right, great catch, everybody. This is going to indeed. Yes, you're using a code from category I-69 that specify any of these things. You must identify whether the affected side is dominant or non-dominant, and then even if you go specifically into the guideline, it'll tell you if it's not, stated dominant or non-dominant, then left side will be assumed non-dominant, right will be dominant, so on and so forth. So yes, this one is going to be false. Great job. I think everyone got that one right as well. So we are on a roll. All right, let's do a 400 from the AMI section since everyone is just killing it. Okay, true or false? Coronary microvascular dysfunction, or CMD, is a condition that impacts the microvasculature by restricting microvascular flow and increasing microvascular resistance. So this is kind of a definition question to kind of switch things up. Let me know if we think this is a true or false statement in the chat. All right, time is up. So this is going to be a true. I got to do a little, anatomy, physiology, and medical terminology. Throw that in there. So yes, this is what the definition of the coronary microvascular dysfunction means. So always good to have that knowledge with you. So excellent work. I agree. Oh, oh no. Hold on one second. I don't know why it just did that. Oh, why does it do that? Okay, sorry guys, bear with me for just one second. Okay. I clicked on the wrong thing, and so it only was doing 3 questions at a time. All right, so if we click on a double one, then we'll just click through it. Okay, let's go back to hypertension for 200. Okay. True or false? Resistant hypertension refers to blood pressure in a patient with hypertension that remains above goal despite the use of antihypertensive medications. So, this is another kind of definition one. So, let me know what we're thinking in the chat if this is a true or false statement. Okay, this one is going to be another true. Again, I just want to kind of get some definition. If there's any definitions in the guidelines, I definitely always want to touch on them because it's always good to know. So yes, this is going to be a true statement. So if you got that one right, outstanding job. You guys are killing it as far as participation goes in the chat. So keep it up, keep it up. Okay, let's go back to our middle section. Let's do a 100. Okay, this will be a sequencing question. So if a patient has angina and atherosclerotic heart disease, code them separately. Do not use a combination code. Oh no, not I need to go back. That's why we're here. We're here for some review. We're here to know what we need to, focus on. So we are putting in the work by being here on this Monday night. Let me know what we think in the chat. I'll give you guys a few more seconds on this one. All right, that is going to be time. So this one is going to be false. Everything about this one is false. If you go to the guidelines, you will see that the correct guideline states if a patient has angina and oh my gosh, I cannot say that word, atherosclerotic heart disease, use a combination code. Do not code them separately. So that is what makes this statement false. So if you caught that one, great job, or if we learned something even better. So keep it up. Keep up putting those answers in. All right, let's go to our AMI. Let's do 300. Okay, true or false? Code I-22 or category I-22 is only used for subsequent myocardial infarctions or AMI that are type 1 or unspecified if they occur within 10 weeks of an initial AMI. So I know this is kind of a in-depth one, so I'll give you guys a little more time. Let me know what we think in the chat. Okay, outstanding, outstanding. So yes, this one is going to be false. Oh my gosh, you guys killed this one. I thought I was being like super sneaky. So yes, so the correct wording would be code I-22 or category I-22 is only used for subsequent myocardial infarctions or AMI that are type 1 or unspecified if they occur within 4 weeks of an initial AMI, not 10 weeks. So that is what is going to make this false. So this one says 10, it is supposed to be 4. So everyone that put their answers in the chat got that one right. So I am just blown away. Yes, perfection. You guys are absolutely killing it. I agree 100%. Okay, let's go back. I'm going to get this hypertension one because we already did this one just to get it out of the way. Okay, let's do a 300 from hypertension. Okay. True or false? A relationship cannot be assumed between hypertension and heart involvement and hypertension and kidney involvement, and a combination code would not be appropriate. Let me know if we think that is true or false. In the chat, someone said I just started practicing combo codes today. We love to see it. You are just putting in all kinds of work on this Monday. So great work. All right, I'll give you guys a few seconds with this one and then we will go over it. Okay, that is going to be time. So, okay. So, yes. So this one is going to be false. MCG manual, or you go into the ICD-10, it states that there is an assumed relationship between hypertension and heart involvement and hypertension and kidney involvement, and a combination code must be used. So again, I will go over the specific title, name, and like the number of the guideline that I use. So you can go back and you can look and see what code if you need to get some extra practice. But yes, this statement is going to be false. I think everyone caught that one. So great job. Okay, let's do a ACD. Do this one already? Okay. We did not. Okay. True or false? Category I-69 or sequela of cerebrovascular disease is used to code the residual or late effects of cerebrovascular conditions such as strokes that result in lasting neurological deficits. So kind of another definition one, but let me know if we think this is a true or false in the chat. Okay, I see that I'm getting an overwhelming true in the chat, and that would be correct. This is going to be true. So, yes. So, this section, in case you guys didn't know, because I know we've been talking about that category I-69 a lot, but you're going to see that a lot when you're dealing with these kinds of codes in this kind of section. So, yes, and that is going to be when you are coding all of your cerebrovascular conditions, so your strokes that result in the lasting neurologic defects. We are going to maybe use one for our in-depth scenario later. So I'm glad that everyone got that one right. Keep it up. Let's move on to our AMI. Let's do a 100. Okay, so if a type 1 STEMI changes to an N-STEMI due to treatment, code it as an N-STEMI. All right. I know I said STEMI so many times, so I'll let you guys look this one over. Let me know in the chat what we think. Okay, that is going to be time. So you guys were quick with this one. This one is definitely false. So yes, if a type 1 STEMI changes to an N-STEMI due to treatment, you are still going to code it as a STEMI. So everyone got that one correct. So way to catch that one. It's a pretty important guideline. So awesome work. You guys are killing these. All right. Let's close out our hypertension category for our 400. True or false? Elevated blood pressure can result from temporary conditions or circumstances and is always indicative of hypertension. What do we think about this statement, guys? Let me know what we think in the chat and we'll go over it in a few. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of responses in the chat. I'm seeing someone said maybe the word always makes it false, and you would be correct in thinking that because this is indeed false. So, yes, just because someone has elevated blood pressure does not always mean that they also have hypertension. So, this is saying it always is indicative of hypertension, so that is what makes this one false. So, way to figure it out in the chat. I'm loving all of the responses. You guys are always great with the participation, so no surprise there, but I love to see it. Okay, I think we already did this 300 one, so let me just get this one out of the way. This one was false. Okay, let's close out this middle section for 400. Okay, still sticking with the category I-69. So codes from category I-69, again, sequela of cerebrovascular disease, should only be assigned when the patient has documented neurologic deficits. What do we think about this one, guys? True or false? Let me know. Okay. So this one is going to be true. So these codes from category I-69, they definitely should only be assigned when the patient has documented neurologic deficits, like if somebody has an example of this would be, somebody has facial drooping due to an old cerebrovascular disease or due to an old CVA. You definitely want to look for that connection. So definitely want if someone's having the face drooping or something like that, you want to see that it is documented that it is specifically from a previous CVA. So that's what make this one true. Yep, spot on. I agree. Amazing job. All right, and we have one more. Was this the 200 or the 400? Let's see. Okay, perfect. So, if an acute myocardial infarction or an AMI is documented as non-transmural or subendocardial and the site is specified, it should still be coded as a subendocardial AMI. I know this is a lot of words, so I'll give you guys a few to figure it out. Let me know in chat what we think. All right, outstanding, outstanding. I was going to make this one the 400 one because I thought this one was a little difficult, but you guys had no problem everyone getting this one right. This is going through. So, yes, this is how you would code if both of these are documented and the site is specified. So, great job. Way to end the Jeopardy game. We already did this one. So way to end that game on a great note. I think you guys are nice and warmed up. I think you guys have been killing these guidelines. So let's take that great energy into our in-depth scenarios. But before we do that, I am going to really quickly just click through the I'm going to switch back to our presentation and click through all of the guideline references that I used for this game. Again, this is going to be a recorded video, so I'm going to click through them kind of quickly so we can get to our in-depth coding, but since it is recorded, you can always go back to our YouTube page, find this video, and you can kind of slow it down if you need to and, pause it if need be, if you need to get a little extra practice with these specific guidelines. So this is going to be our Jeopardy guidelines for the hypertension section. So all of our questions, all of our answers, and all of our specific guideline titles so that you can locate them if you need to. This is going to be from our second category, that atherosclerotic coronary artery disease, ACD, and angina, the question, the answer, the guideline, and then last but not least, this is going to be our acute myocardial infarction, or AMI section. Again, question, answer, and the guideline. So we can always look back on that. Okay, so how are we feeling? I hope you guys are feeling confident. I hope that is the vibe that we are feeling for going into our in-depth scenarios. Let me know in the chat. And while you are doing that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to go ahead and grab our Quizlet so we can go into our in-depth scenario. So if you haven't done our Quizlet before, we are going to break it down into 3 different parts. So we have one scenario and we break it down so we can fully understand. We're going to break it down into our keywords. We're going to break it down into our guideline we're going to select for the scenario. And then last but not least, we are going to select our final ICD-10 guide or ICD-10 code or codes. So this is our first scenario. So is it our first scenario? Okay. So a 68-year-old man is admitted to the emergency department with severe chest pain and is diagnosed with an acute STEMI involving the inferior wall. During hospitalization, he is treated with thrombolytic therapy. After treatment, repeat testing shows the infarction has evolved into an end STEMI. So what keywords are we taking out of this encounter to find our guideline and to find those final codes? Let me know in the chat, and then we will go over it in just a minute or two. Okay, it has been about a minute and a half. So if you are still typing, please go ahead and still put those answers in the chat. What I'm taking out is going to specifically be the acute STEMI involving the inferior walls specifically, and also the STEMI evolving into the end STEMI. So now we are going to move on to our second part. So this is going to be the same scenario. We're going to keep in mind those keywords that we picked out. And now we are going to pick our specific guideline that we are going to be using for this scenario. again, from chapter 9. So to kind of, narrow it down a little bit, I know there's a bunch of guidelines. So out of all of those from that chapter, let me know what guideline you think is best going to fit solving this scenario. Okay, time is up. So the guideline that we're going to be using is going to be our IC9E1. So acute myocardial infarction, AMI type 1, ST elevation myocardial infarction, STEMI, and non-ST elevation myocardial infarction, NSTEMI. So perfect. If you guys gave it a shot, or everyone that put it in the chat got it right, so outstanding job. Okay, and now we are going to move on using that guideline. That is going to be super helpful, and then also using those keywords. Now we are going to find our final ICD-10 CM code or codes that best describe this encounter. Let me know in the chat what we think that is, and then we will go over it in our PowerPoint presentation so it can all make sense and we can go over it together. Alrighty, time is up. I'm going to stop sharing my screen really quick. I'm not going to reveal the answer just yet. I don't know if you can hear outside of my window, but Florida is doing the Florida thing and it is pouring down rain for some reason. So hopefully my power does not go out. Okay, let's see. Okay. So this is going to be our scenario once again. I know you guys were looking at it time and time again, so I won't read the whole thing over again. But again, the key words that we're taking out are that acute STEMI involving the inferior wall and also the STEMI evolving into an NSTEMI. This is going to be the guideline we are going to be using. Again, IC9E1. So this is basically STEMI and our NSTEMI. And if you read on, and you also saw one of these questions that we went through in our Jeopardy about, when someone comes in and they have a STEMI and then they stay and receive therapy and it involves into an NSTEMI, that you are still going to code it as a STEMI. So with that being said, if you read this, it'll also explain that. So that is why we are just going to be using one code for this scenario, and that code is going to be for the STEMI. So this kind of goes into it a little more. So if you look at this clarification, this specific section right here, if a type 1 NSTEMI becomes STEMI, code it as STEMI. But if a type 1 STEMI changes into an NSTEMI due to treatment, and then you see due to treatment, if you look in the scenario, it is treated with the thrombolytic treatment, you are still going to code it as STEMI. So with that being said, that's pretty cut and dry. So then you can, refer over to your ICD-10 book and you can find our one and only code that we are using for this scenario. And that is going to be our ST elevation or STEMI, myocardial infarction involving other coronary artery of inferior wall. Again, being inferior wall because that is another keyword that we took out of our scenario. So that is how we found our one and only code for this scenario. So if you gave it a shot, Becky Leaf, you absolutely killed it. Found the guideline, the keywords, and the code. So the trifecta. So shout out to you. Or if you gave it a shot in the chat, absolutely outstanding. Hopefully the explanation helped. Again, let me know in the chat if we have any questions about that one. But we are going to move on to our second scenario for the night, and we are going to start right back over with our keywords. So I'm going to switch back to our Quizlet, and let's give it another shot. So here's our second scenario. So Mrs. Thompson, a 79-year-old woman, presents to her primary care provider for a routine follow-up visit. She experienced a cerebral infarction 1 year ago and continues to have left-sided hemiplegia as a result of the stroke. No new cerebrovascular event is documented. What keywords best describe this encounter? So what keywords, again, are we going to take out in order to find that guideline and in order to find our final ICD-10 code? Let me know in the chat. I'll give you guys about a minute and a half. Okay, time is up for that one. So the keywords that we should be taking out of here are going to be the patient experiencing a CVA 1 year ago, continues to have the hemiplegia, and then also the left-sided hemiplegia as a result of the CVA specifically. So everyone that put their answers in the chat got that one. You were definitely on the right path, and those are all great keywords to take out. So shout out to you guys. And now we're going to move on to our second part, and we are going to be finding what ICD-10-CM guideline is going to best describe this encounter in order to find those final code or codes. As always, I'll give you guys a little bit of time and put those answers in the chat. Let me know what we think. Okay, getting a lot of great participation in the chat, putting in those guidelines. So the guideline that we're going to be selecting for this is going to be IC9D1. So, and then the title of that is going to be Sequela of Cerebrovascular Disease, or category I69, Sequela of Cerebrovascular Disease. So absolutely, yes, great participation. A lot of people were putting that in the chat. So great job if you were on the right track. Still great job. We love to see some participation. So now we are going to reach our final part of this scenario, and we are going to be selecting our ICD-10-CM code, or codes that are going to best describe this encounter. I feel like a lot of you guys already know what the third part's going to be. You guys are locked and loaded with some of those codes. All right, I'll still give you guys a little bit of time, and then we'll move over to the PowerPoint and see how everything looks all together. All right, I see a lot of people giving it a great shot in the chat. So let's move over and see how this is going to look paired with our keywords and with our guideline. Again, if you are still working, definitely give it your best shot. Let us know in the chat. Okay, switching back over to our PowerPoint. All right. What we're taking out of the scenario is going to be the patient experiencing a CVA 1 year ago, continuing to have hemiplegia, and specifically left-sided hemiplegia as a result of the CVA. So this is going to be our guideline that we are going to be referencing. It's kind of a long one, so I kind of clipped these together, but they're both from the same guideline, and they're both going to be from the MCG manual. So 2 things that I want to focus on here. One is going to be right here on this right side. As always, this usually is like a sequencing suggestion. In this case, you don't see, it says left-sided hemiplegia, but it does not specify what dominance. So with that being said, you're going to kind of refer to this guideline. You can either look at this right here, or you can look at the bottom of the guideline. So it states it multiple times. But if the left side is being affected, you are going to default it to non-dominant. So that is a big indicator of how we're going to find our final code. And then obviously, we're looking in here. So it's going to be from category I-69. So that is also a big clue of how we are going to find this code in our ICD-10-CM manual. So with all of these clues being said, this is going to be our final code. Again, it is going to be from category I-69. It's specifically going to be I-69.354. And this is going to be hemiplegia and hemiparesis. I cannot talk. Pregnancy brain, y'all, is real. Okay, so hemiparesis following cerebral infarction affecting left non-dominant side. All right, so if you got that one right, absolutely amazing. Let me know if the explanation made sense or if you have any other questions about this specific scenario. But you guys killed it. I am loving everyone giving it a shot in the chat. So outstanding job. Okay, and now we are going to move on to our third and final scenario of the night. Time has been flying by tonight. My goodness. Okay. So we're going to start one more time from the top. So here's going to be our third and final scenario. Okay, a 76-year-old patient presents for a follow-up visit for essential hypertension. The patient's blood pressure is well controlled with medication. The provider also documents coronary artery disease without angina pectoris. The physician clearly states that the coronary artery disease is unrelated to the patient's hypertension and no heart failure is present. What keywords best describe this encounter? I know this one was a lot of words, so I'll give you guys a minute to decide and let me know in the chat. All right, and once you guys, I know you guys are doing that, but I saw that someone asked the difference between category I-69 and I-67. So category I-67, it is going to represent active, acute, or ongoing cerebrovascular disease, and category I-69 is specifically reserved for like residual system symptoms or late effects from the cerebrovascular event. So the reason that we went that previous scenario with category I-69 is because, again, the keywords that we took out of there were that she was having the hemiplegia specifically from the old CVA that she had, again, 1 year ago. So that is why we were using that specific category versus category I-67. So I hope that that made sense. But moving to this scenario, I see you guys have put some awesome keywords in here. So yes, so what I'm taking out of here is going to be the reason for the encounter, so why they're going. and getting seen is for that essential hypertension, also that coronary artery disease without angina pectoris, and then also pretty important, the coronary artery disease and the hypertension specifically being unrelated or specifically being documented as unrelated. So, yeah, of course. I love questions in the chat. Ask them up. All right. So now we are going to move on to the guideline or guidelines that best describe this encounter. I think there are two in here. I think there are two that we're using, but don't quote me on this one. Let me know what we think in the chat. I'll give you guys about a minute and a half. All right, that is going to be time. So the guideline that we are selecting for our final scenario is going to, oh, it was just one. That's weird. Okay, so IC9A1, so hypertension or hypertension with heart disease. Okay, so if you got that one, great job. Now we are moving on to our final codes. You guys have been doing great with these in-depth scenarios all night. So let's end it again on a great note like we did with our warm-up game. And let me know what code or codes are going to best describe this encounter. Let me know in the chat, and then we will switch it over one last time to our PowerPoint, and we will go over it. All right, I'm getting some awesome responses in the chat. I'm going to switch right on over to our PowerPoint so we can see how everything looks all on one screen. Okay. Awesome, awesome. So, okay. So, yes. So, what we're taking out of here, the reason for encounter is going to be that essential hypertension or the visit for essential hypertension. Also, the coronary artery disease without the angina pectoris. And then the coronary artery disease and hypertension being unrelated. So, this is going to be our guideline that we are going to be using. Is there two parts? Oops. Okay. So, this is going to be the guideline we're going to be using. Let's move that back. Okay, so if you look right here at our sequencing suggestions, you can kind of ignore what this says at the top because this is hypertension and / with heart disease. And as we know, because the keywords that we took out of our scenario are that the artery disease and the hypertension are going to be unrelated. So we would focus on the bottom section of this sequencing suggestion because it says documented as unrelated. And this kind of gives you a suggestion. It obviously, if you look down here, it says sequence according to the admission or the RFE. So we took out that the reason that they are here is for the hypertension. So that would mean that we are going to code the hypertension first. And that is going to mean that we're going to follow this sequencing suggestion. So the first code we're going to be using is from I-10. So that is going to be our essential or primary hypertension. That is going to be our first code. And then for our second code, we have to focus on the coronary artery disease, again, because they're being unrelated. So we're going to have to code them separately. It even says code separately if the provider documents as unrelated. So that is going to take us to our second code. And that is going to be from category I-25.1, so that atherosclerotic heart disease of native coronary artery. And then if you look into these codes or these diagnoses right here, the coronary artery disease is going to be a part of this code. So that is why we are going to be using this code. It requires a 5th character. So then we are going to move down and have our second and final code for this scenario, which is going to be I-25.10, which is going to be the atherosclerotic heart disease of native coronary artery, again, without angina pectoris, because that is going to be in our keywords that we took out of there. And so, yep, that's going to be our final code. So I-10 and I-25.10. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know in the chat. But a lot of people were giving it their best shot. I'm loving all the participation, and I love it when people give it their best shot. Hopefully we learned something. Everyone was on the right track with those and with the guidelines for all of the in-depth scenarios, so outstanding job. And that is going to be the end of our class for tonight. I know I went about 5 minutes over. I'm so sorry, but if you have any questions, as always, thank you, Miss Olga, for being so wonderful. She's just on it, putting the survey link in the chat already. So definitely give that a click. Let us know if you have any questions or any feedback. This is going to be a new survey link, so we're getting kind of fancy with it. So thank you guys so much for joining us on this Monday night. You guys absolutely killed all of the warm-ups and the in-depth scenarios. So outstanding job. We are going to move on to our week 6 next week. So again, time is just flying by. So we're going to meet here again at the same time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure to join us. I will be here with my wonderful team. Shout out Miss Olga, Miss Vina, being amazing as always in the chat. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of their Monday. And again, hope to see you guys next week. So everyone have a great night, and thank you so much.
4,000 exam passers and free classes at AMCI. Learn to go straight from home or on the road at AMCI. We're on the East Coast, the West Coast. We're all around the world. AMCI, AMCI.